So these viral ASMR videos are blowing up on social media, getting millions of views. Now let's take a look at the most popular videos from this channel. As you can see, it's a really satisfying glass fruit cutting scene with very engaging visuals and audio, and no wonder that they're going viral. And that's why today I want to show you guys two ways you could recreate these type of videos with either Google VO3 model or the Seedance 1.0 model, which tops the video generation leaderboard very recently. And I'll just talk about the pros and cons of using each model right after the demo. Now let's take a look at an example output from VO3. And next up, we have another example generated with Seedance. You can probably tell the differences right off the bat after seeing the two example videos. Now I do find that the output quality from VO3 tends to be higher, especially for these type of ASMR videos where sound synchronization is the key. But then, the disadvantage of using VO3 is that the cost is much higher than Seedance, and for example, generating a 5 seconds video is going to cost us around $4, where Seedance only costs around 70 cents for a 180p 5 seconds video. Now, which model to choose from is entirely depending on your current goals. If you do prefer the highest quality video to start with, so that you can hit better engagement or even hit virality on social, start with VO3. Now, if you do prefer a massive content volume strategy where you just kind of want to generate more output to experiment with a lower cost, I would suggest starting with Seedance. And the best part is, the system that I'm about to give you for free is able to allow you to flexibly choose between the two and experiment with different videos so that you don't have to go to different sources and save all the hassles. And so the AI automation system that I'll be sharing in this video is able to create a very high quality video prompt from a simple glass object idea from the Google Sheet. And then together with the model specified, it will choose the first or the second path. And the first path is to use the Google VO3 model and create a video with that, and then get it back and just output the final video link back to our Google Sheet. And then the second step or the second path will be to use the Seedance 1.0 model to create a video and also adding sound effects to that video and also log the final output link back to our Google Sheet. And then with that link, we can do further actions such as posting to social media or do some further editing. And so just a quick note on the differences between the two. So for Google VO3, we actually have the audio already blended in when we create a video, and that's why we don't need to add sound effects to it. Just real quick, if you don't know me, my name is Grayson, and our mission at AI Builders Lab is to empower you to let AI work for you. Now, to make this tutorial easier for you, I've compiled a guide so that you can find all the important resources that I'll be assessing for this tutorial, as well as a step-by-step guide which you can find the Google Sheet template, the API details, and more importantly, the final template that you can download and just import it to your n8n workspace. So once you have downloaded the template and head back to the n8n workspace, we can now create a new workflow and just rename this to whatever we like. And now we can also import the file that we have just downloaded from Skool community. So we can import this, and now you should have everything laid out for you already. And the framework for today's lesson will be separated in two different parts. In the first part, we'll talk about generating a video prompt, which includes steps such as scheduling a trigger running this workflow per day, getting some data from a Google Sheet template, such as this one, so that you have the name for the glass object, you have the model you want to generate the videos for, you have the status of the video generation, as well as the output URL that we'll be inserting later. And then we'll pass all these data to a AI agent using the OpenAI chat model to generate the video prompt. In the second section, we'll learn how to generate videos using VO3 model as well as the Seedance 1.0 model. And during the building process, we explore how to use conditional triggers so that we can choose different execution paths based on the Google Sheet value, and also learn how to use HTTP node so that we can call the API service from Power AI to generate videos, sound effects, and eventually also log back the video output link to our Google Sheet. In order to maximize your n8n learning knowledge, I'm gonna do a live build of the system from scratch, node by node, so that it is extremely easy for you to follow. So what I'm gonna do is to delete everything from here and just start from scratch. Okay, so with that being said, let's get started. So I'll start by doing a schedule trigger like this. So I'm gonna set it to 10 a.m. to be running every day, like so. and just put it back to the first section. And the second step will be to read the data from our Google Sheet. So what you can do is to head back to the community and just click on this link so that you have access to this Google Sheet. What you can do is to make a copy and just rename this to the name that you preferred and make a copy. So now you have a copy that is editable. So now back to n8n, we can now set up the Google Sheet node like this. And then we can do get rows in sheet. Once you open the node, the first thing you need to do is to create a new Google credentials so that n8n has access to your Google Sheet. So you can simply create a new credentials and sign it with your current Google account. And once you have done that, you should be able to load all the documents from your Google Drive. So for example, I'm just going to pick this one that I just copied from the template. And now you should be able to also select the sheet from the Google Sheet document. So I'm going to pick sheet 1. And now if I execute a step, you should be able to get back all the data, like glass apple, strawberry, and with pending status, exactly like what we see here in this Google Sheet. Now when the data is loaded, now we only need those that we need to generate videos for. And to do that, we can set up a new filter using the status column, and the value will be pending so that we only get those pending objects to be generated videos for. So now if we execute step, because both videos are still pending, so that's fine. So once we have got back the data from our Google Sheet, the next step is to pass through this data to an AI agent so that it can create video prompts for us. So what we can do, we can choose the AI agent node here and just kind of name this to prompt agent so it's super clear. And the first thing you need to do is to set up the OpenAI credentials by clicking on create new credentials. And if you don't already have an OpenAI API key, what you can do is to go back to the community and just click on this get your OpenAI API key. You'll be routed to platform.openai.com, which you can just kind of sign up an account and load in some OpenAI credits. And once you have done that, you can create a new secret key here and just name it however you like and choose default project and create a new secret key. And just a reminder that don't share this API key with anyone else because it is something like your password. Now in this case, I'm just going to delete this key after the tutorial. So let's just copy it and then going back to the canvas and paste it into your API key and click save. And if it is successfully connected, it will show you a success state here. So let's just go back to this node and now you can choose a different model. So in this case, I'm going to choose the O3 model, which is just slightly better in this kind of complex prompt generation. So I'm going to choose that one and hit save. Just tidy a little bit. In addition, I also just choose another tool to connect. So this is the Think tool. We just kind of give this AI agent to reason through complicated stuff when it's needed. So I'm just going to go back to this. And then the gist for this AI agents is really the combination of the user prompt and the system prompt, which kind of defines how this AI agent will work in this video prompt generation. So let's just go ahead and add a system message so that I can copy the system prompt. So what you can do is head back to the community. I've already set up the system prompt, so you can copy and paste in this field. And remember also to choose expression to enlarge a little bit so that I can see the text more clearly. And I'll explain what's going on under the hood. So basically, I always start this kind of system prompt with a role definition. So in this case, it's going to be advanced prompt engineer trained to create these high quality ASMR glass object video prompts. And then just telling the agent to generate the prompt based on the example output that I have defined here. And also just follow this kind of styles and guides that I asked the AI agent to adhere to. For example, if you look at the styles, it's always going to be photorealistic, cinematic languages, jelly-like transparent glass materials so that it kind of resembles the viral videos you see on TikTok. And then for guide, it's going to be photo object, assign a soft color, transparent materials, and also describe the object as centered on a wooden board, that kind of environmental scenes. So anyway, if we save it and also go back to this agent, now we can also choose define below and drag this object field here so that the user prompt is going to be the object we specify in the Google Sheet. So with a combination of these two, when we execute a step, it should be able to generate two system prompts for the two roles. So just wait a couple of seconds for it to load. So as you can see here, the first one, it's for the apple. So it's a prompt for the glassed apple. The second prompt, it's for the glass strawberry. So we'll just pass on this output to the next few steps to generate videos for us. And now very quickly, you already have the step 1 done, which you learn about how to generate video prompt. And it's time to move on to the second step to generate videos. So the next step is actually to create a switch node so that we can choose between different video generation models. And let me just go back to the Google Sheet to explain. So as you can see here, we can choose between Seedance 1.0 or VO3 for different objects. So in this case, now if we go back to here, we can now drag this model field here, and then we can specify the rule to be VO3 for the first path. And then if we add another routing rule, we can also drag the same field here and specify it to be Seedance 1.0. So essentially, if that field equals to VO3, we'll go to the first path, and if that's Seedance 1.0, we'll go through the second path. So which is exactly what it defines here. So 0 and 1. And then we'll continue by creating the VO3 execution path first. So let's just go ahead here, and then we can now click on another HTTP node, and which will set up the VO3 create video request. So before we move on, let me just talk about FOW.ai a little bit. So if we go back to the Skool community and click on this link. So if we just go onto the home page, so FOW.ai is like an AI model aggregator, which abstracts everything under a single API. So you have the API key, you have access to different models that FOW.ai provides. So if you go on the Explore tab, you have access to VO3, Cling 2.1, and also different text, audio, images, speech, whole bunch of other models that you can play around with. And this is actually perfect for this automation use case. But anyway, if we go to the API keys tab, once you have set up the account and also load in some credits, what we can do is to add a new key here and just name it to a name you preferred and create a new key. So just copy this key and head back to the canvas. And then now we can use this key in our authentication. So what we can do is to head on to generic credential type and also set up a header off. We'll create a new credentials and just name it to FOW.ai. For the name, it's going to be authorization. And for the value, if we click on the expression tab, let's just type in key and then paste it in the API key you just copied. And then we'll save it and go back to the canvas. So now to continue, we can rename this to create video and just call it VO3. And then we'll choose the post as the method. And now if we go back to the community, scroll down until we reach step 2.1, we can copy this path, and then we can paste this URL in. And also eventually we'll set up a body request here and using JSON, and we can enlarge this to see a little bit clearer. And now we can just copy this JSON body specified here and paste it in. So essentially what it means is that it tells the FOW.ai to use this prompt that we just generated from this prompt agent, and with an aspect ratio of a video of 9:16, which is perfect for YouTube Shorts, Instagram Reels and TikTok. And also very importantly, we should also generate the audio so that, we have the sound synchronization with the cutting, the board touching the knife, and etc. So what we can do here is now we can execute this step, and now FOW.ai will return us a request ID together with the status URL, and now we can just kind of wait a couple of minutes and get back to video. So next step, what we're going to do is that we will set up another node that is called wait node, and video generation typically takes minutes to finish, like 5 minutes, 10 minutes. So I'm just going to do a 5 minutes wait here and wait until the video generation is done, and then we'll get back to video. So let's just click on wait and we'll wait. And then at the meantime, during your wait, you can actually head to this link, FOW.ai models, FOW.ai VO3, and then you can actually see the request that is currently pending. So for example, the API request I've just sent is now waiting. So I'll just wait until it finished, and then we'll get back to video. Okay, so now the wait is over. You can also see that in the playground, the request returns at 200. So it's now completed. So what we can do now is to set up another HTTP node. And then we can also name this to get video and name it to VO3. So this is actually super simple. You just need to copy this URL from the Skool community and just paste this thing in. Remember to also set the authentication to be using header off with FOW.ai. So you execute it, and now eventually you retrieve the URL for the MP4 files. So the last step that we can do is to actually log this file back to our Google Sheet. So what we can do is to set this Google Sheet node to be update row in a sheet. And again, we'll just pick the same, Google Sheet document that we have, and also pick the sheet label. This time we're going to have this map each column manually, and also set the column to match on to be object. We'll delete this model field, and then we'll go back to this get roles, and we'll put this object field here. And then we'll set this object to be completed. And now the URL will be the final URL that we get back from the node. So now if we execute this step, and you can see that this class strawberry field with model being VO3 is now completed with this URL for the files. And if we click on it, we'll just download that MP4 file, and let's have a look of how the video looks like. So you can see it's a really high quality video with the sound perfectly blending in the environment. So the cutting sound and also touching the wood. So it's really perfect. And that's it. You have completed step 2.1, which you created a video using VO3 model together with the audio blended in. And now let's complete the remaining part, which is to generate videos from the cheaper alternative, which is Seedance, and also stitching a sound effects to it. So what we'll do next is that for this second path, we'll set up another HTTP request. And this time, we'll name this to get video, create video, and then just label it to be Seedance 1.0. And now what we can do is to choose the post method. And again, go back to the community. We can copy this path, paste this in, and then authentication, we're going to choose header off and the file AI credentials that we have already set up. And also remember to check the send body field. And now we also pick using JSON, choose expression, enlarge this a little bit. Going back to the community, we can now copy this JSON body under step 2.2 and just paste this inside here. So again, I'll explain what's going under the hood. Again, for the Seedance model, very similar. We're passing a prompt, specify an aspect ratio to be like a phone layout. For duration, we can either choose 10 seconds or 5 seconds. Since it is relatively cheaper, so I'm just going to pick 10 seconds. For resolution, you can choose 480p, 720, or even 180p, just to test a different resolution. Now, to optimize the cost, I'm just going to stick with 480 for this testing purpose. And it's also important to set the camera to be fixed so that you don't kind of have a unexpected video output. So let's just save, and now we can also execute this step. Very similar to what you generated from VO3. Again, you have the request ID and status that you will be able to retrieve it later. And then, as you can expect, we also set up another wait node. So this time, I'm just going to wait for around 2 minutes because 480p videos is relatively quick to be finished. So let's just execute step and we'll wait. And again, if you just head to ByteDance Seedance V1 Pro text to video and just go to the request, you can see that the request that we trigger is now in progress. Okay, so now the wait is over. Let's also get back the videos using the similar HTTP request. So I'm going to set up a node and name this to get video and Seedance 1.0. So again, going back to the community, you can copy this path and then paste this in. So essentially this is just getting back the video that we have. And remember also to set up the header off to be file AI to not have this error. And now you get back the MP4 files from the Seedance 1.0 video. So now let's kind of see what that is looking like from the top. You see it's like a jelly kind of apple that is being cut, and it doesn't have any audio yet. So we're going to add audios in it now. So if we go back to the canvas, just save it, remember. Now we can choose another HTTP request like these. And we can rename it to be add sound effects. Like so. And now if we go back to the community, what we're going to do is that we'll use another video to video generation model, which is called Audio V2. And if we just go back to file AI and go to explore, and now if we search for Audio, so basically what this model does is that it kind of generates a synchronized audio given video or text input. So you can supply a video URL and also a prompt. And this is kind of exactly what we need for this use case. And if we go back to the community, what we can do is to copy this post request like so, and then just paste it in here and choose post. Remember to also choose file AI as the authentication. And again, we'll check send body and also select using JSON. We'll pick expressions and enlarge this window. So again, going back to the community, you can copy this JSON body from the generate video step under Audio v2 and just paste it inside. So very similar to what's happening before is that we will now pass in the prompt, which is the very first prompt that we have generated. And then we also pass in the video URL that we get back from Seedance 1.0 model. So okay, now if we just execute the step, it will also return another request ID that is for this add sound effects video to video model request. And this time we just need to wait relatively little time. For example, like maybe 20 seconds until the audio to be stitched together. So I just wait until that. And the wait is over. We can now get back the video using a similar HTTP request. So we can name this to be get final video. And now we can go back to the community and just copy this link. Paste this inside and select credentials to be file AI. And when everything is set up, we can just execute a step. And now very similarly, we get back the final video MP4 URL, which you can then log to the Google Sheet. So let's just first set up the final Google Sheet node. And in fact, what I can do is just to copy this one and just drag this to connect these two nodes and leaving everything untouched here. It should be able to just kind of save the video URL that we have outputted. So when I just finish loading, you can see that the Seedance 1 glass apple is also completed with the URL link. And let's just take a look at the video. So I download this one, and then now I can play it. So the sound is not too bad at all for this one, but it's not 100% guaranteed that you'll get such synchronized sound. But this is also one way that you can generate these kind of videos other than using VO3. And that's it. You have completed the entire workflow where you learn about how to load data from Google Sheet and generate video prompts. You also learn about generating videos using VO3 model and also using Seedance 1.0 model and adding sound effects to it. As usual, if you find this tutorial useful, please like and subscribe. It will really help the growth of this channel so that we can continue to deliver more content like this. And if you want to join a growing community of AI enthusiasts who are turning AI into real income, consider joining AI Builders Lab, which is linked in the video description below. So that's it for today. See you next time. Thank you.